How are you, welcome first of all, Mr. Schiller. How are you dealing with inflation, and have you been able to get your arms around it, pass on, take price hikes where you need to?
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. Inflation is certainly hitting us across the board: packaging, ingredients, labor, transportation. The good news for us is we have a very robust productivity machine. So we try to offset as much inflation as possible with internal productivity that the consumer will never see. And then beyond that, we do very surgical pricing to make sure that we're doing things that are not going to jeopardize people's interest in our brands, but that we're able to recoup as much of the inflation as possible.
An analyst note that I saw made reference to a risk that if a nationwide vaccine mandate takes effect for large businesses, it is tied up in the courts right now, I guess, that could pose a real problem for lots of companies. How hard would it hit yours?
Well, we're certainly encouraging everyone to get vaccinated. That's the best solution all the way around. If the mandate does go through, then we're going to be required to test those that are not vaccinated every week. That will create some disruptions within our manufacturing facilities as people have to get time away from work to get tested. And then there's certainly the cost of that as well. I think relative to our peers in the industry, though, we do less self-manufacturing than many of our competitors do. So I don't think we'll be competitively disadvantaged there, but it certainly will cost and create some complexity.
Speaking of cost markets, Kelly here, I'm definitely familiar with some of your brands, Earth's Best, Celestial seasonings. They're not cheap. That's not really the point. But as they get more and more expensive, do you kind of know with each product that there's a threshold at which you really start to lose consumers?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is the health and wellness consumer tends to be more affluent because healthy products have always costed more. So if you think about wanting to buy organic products, they tend to cost more than their counterpart that isn't organic. So we tend to have a more affluent consumer who's a little less price sensitive. And certainly, if you go back to previous recessions, as an example, health and wellness has outperformed the rest of the food industry because of that. That said, we do look brand by brand at our elasticities, at our competitive price gaps, and we try and make sure that we stay competitive and that we don't do anything to alienate consumers. But at the end of the day, inflation is here, it's real, and we do have to pass some of that on to consumers. So far, we've taken significant increases, and we've seen very little volume fall off thus far. That's
exactly what I was going to ask. I don't know if you can get any more granular than that, but so you say you have had significant price increases, no fall off in demand. Would you say you're bumping up against the ceiling, though, of what you think the customer will take, or could we see 5 or 10% more price increases still to come?
Yeah, so we've taken about 6 to 8% pricing over the last several quarters. We are taking more pricing in the upcoming quarters, but we are taking it on different segments of the brands that we didn't take the first time. So we're trying not to do increases on top of increases. But there are parts of the business that we did not take pricing on initially, either because we weren't in a position to lead and we were waiting for the category leader to take it, or because we were having some service disruptions, and that's not a good time to take pricing either. So there will be more pricing, but it will be in different places than we took it the first time.